episode of Ignite Your Power, the Kathy Mou Podcast. Today's episode is going to touch your soul, activate your inner fire, and remind you of the magic that lives within. I'm so honored to be joined by a true embodiment of divine feminine power, Dorey Kern. Dorey is a magical mentor who helps others alchemize sacred rage into light, supporting the rise of the divine feminine in the most raw, honest, and powerful ways. She's a psychic who first began receiving visions at a young age, a gift passed down from her grandmother, she believes. And what makes her so inspiring is how boldly she shows up in the world, embracing her spiritual gifts, her body, her story, and her truth, even while navigating the complexities of obesity and self-acceptance. In this conversation, we dive into her spiritual awakening, how she learned to honor her sacred rage, and what it truly means to embody your power, no matter where you're starting from. So, whether you're feeling disconnected from your inner light, struggling to trust your gifts, or just needing a reminder that your emotions are sacred, this episode is for you. So, hi, Jory. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, Kathy. What a beautiful introduction. Thank you so much. I'm so
Uh,
excited to be here doing this with you.
Yeah, I know. I'm just so honored to have you because I really believe your mindset and your story is just so powerful and inspiring. So let's start from the beginning. Can you share with us who Dory was before stepping into your power as a magical mentor? And what was life like before this awakening that you had?
Okay. I guess to tell the story of my spiritual awakening, I have to go way back. I had a vision of my grandmother's death when I was 11 years old. And so it was Easter Sunday, and I can vividly remember exactly where I was. I was walking across her living room, and all of a sudden I felt all of the pain that would come along with her death. And I saw a black and white calendar grid, and the only number on it was 22. And then I felt peace wash over me and this knowing that everything would be okay. When I didn't tell anybody about it, I didn't know what it was, but I knew that it was important. And I knew that somehow the number 22 would be involved with my grandmother's death. And I always think she'd die on the 22nd of a month. Well, fast forward to my senior year in college. Actually, let's pause. Let's go one more step in the middle. When I was 14, she moved in with my family and she had dementia and needed help. And she had been living with my aunt and uncle and had gotten to where my aunt still worked as a hairdresser. And so she needed more care than they were able to provide. So she moved in with us, which my mom had fibromyalgia and chronic fatigue syndrome and was not physically capable of working. So why it made sense to the family that she should live with us, well, it was probably because my mom was willing to do it and nobody else was. So
Mhm.
anyway, she moved in with us, which was we had been super close ever since I was born. And she moved in and I started having psychic dreams.
Whoa.
And so I'd come home from school and I'd be like, Granny, I had another psychic dream. This person, I dreamt about them last night. And then when I saw them today, they were doing what they were doing in the dream. Or I've never seen them wear this shirt before, except I saw them wear it in the dream last night and they were wearing it to school today. And she said, well, I had that gift when I was younger, but I was scared of it and I pushed it away. And I said, well, I think it's really cool and I want to develop it.
Yeah.
So then my senior year in college, Easter Sunday, once again, we stopped in to see her at the assisted living home where she was living. And she was crying and screaming out in pain. She was terrified anytime you got near her, don't hurt me, don't drop me, don't hurt me. And so we ended up taking her to the emergency room. And my
Mhm.
mom wouldn't leave her side. She went in with her. And I called all of my aunts and uncles. At the time, she had 9 of her 10 children were still alive. And so I called all of them and said, if you want to see her, you need to come home. And this was 2003. So I'm using a calling card on the payphone in the lobby, right? Because
Oh
I
my
didn't have a cell phone.
gosh. Yeah.
And so she was in the hospital for a couple of days. All of my aunts and uncles came home. We did some research, chose the nursing home that we thought would be the best because they had been both neglecting and abusing her where she was. She was dropped twice in 1 week and they didn't report it. I won't go into detail on the other stuff, but it was bad.
Mhm.
And basically, because of what they did, she ended up dying from it. And so at the new nursing home, they let us, when all of the family was home, they let us move her bed into one of their activity rooms so that we wouldn't disturb her roommate and so we could all be in there with her. and some family friends brought down a ham dinner, which was her favorite meal. And we just had the most beautiful party. She was completely lucid in herself. She told all of her kids, I want you to line up and give me a kiss and tell me how much you love me. Every so often, she'd break into song, everything's going my way. And we'd say, are you too tired? Do we need to let you rest? No, all I want is to sing and talk with my kids. And so you couldn't have asked for a more beautiful goodbye, right? You couldn't have asked for a more beautiful closure. And so all of her kids were there, a couple of the grandkids, and then, some family friends. And at that time, we knew she was going to be cremated. And so we went ahead and scheduled, because we all figured that this was the end, right?
Yeah.
And so we scheduled her celebration of life. This was in June, or no, we scheduled her celebration of life for August. And we figured, if she happens to live through it, we'll have a family reunion and celebrate her birthday. And that very first night, two of my aunts, they brought in extra beds and let them sleep, with her in that night. And then after that, my mom basically moved in with her and slept in a recliner beside her bed.
Mm.
And so it was my last semester of college. I was going to school. I was working. I was very unsuccessfully trying to run a Mary Kay business. So I would do what I had to do. And then I would go to the nursing home and sit with my grandma so that my mom could go home and shower and do what she needed to do. And we had somebody from our family with her 24/7. We didn't trust them. My mom would barely leave her side.
Yeah.
And I was like, I know this is selfish, but please last until I get through the semester because I just don't think I'll finish the semester if you die before I get finished.
Hmm.
And so, I would sit with her well, my mom went and did what she needed to do, and then I would stay because late at night was when she was the most herself. And she was second to my mom. She was the most important person in my life. And so it was way more important to me to spend time with her than it was to go home early and get enough sleep to get up and go to my 8:40 a.m. astronomy class, which I think I went to about 6 or 7 times the entire semester.
Oh my gosh.
And still was only 2 points away from an A.
Oh, dang.
I know. I was like, oh, really close. But I spent lots of time with her during that time. And I mean, I'd be sitting in class writing poetry about her, or, at night I was dreaming about her frequently. And one night I woke up in the middle of the night and I went, oh my God, the book. And so I got up and I went into my old bedroom and I dug through the closet and I found this book that I had purchased when I was like a freshman in high school called Remembrance of Mother, thinking, oh, this will be nice to have and give to mom someday when Granny dies. And so
Yeah.
I sat down, read the book cover to cover, sobbed my eyes out, went back to sleep. The next morning, I put it in a gift bag, grabbed some lunch, and went over to the nursing home to spend time with my mom and my grandma. And I gave my mom the book, and my aunt was there, and my grandma was trying to rest. And so we all stepped out into the hallway and we're visiting. And my aunt went back into the room for something, and she came back out. She goes, she's not breathing. So I take off tearing down the hallway to get a nurse, and the nurse is like, I'm coming with her meds, I'm coming. And I said, well, she's not breathing. So she had to go back and get a stethoscope and so that she could declare her. And it was literally within 15 minutes of me handing my mom that book that my grandmother crossed over.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Oh.
And she didn't die on the 22nd of a month. She died on June 4th, 2003.
Wow.
But I was 22 years old.
Oh my gosh. I just got goosebumps when you said that. Wow.
And a few days after she died, my psychic cousins came over to pay their respects, and I was the only one home. So we're having this conversation about their spiritual awakenings.
Wow.
And I was getting ready to drive across the state to do makeup for a friend's wedding. So I asked them for a healing session because my neck was bothering me. I knew they did some sort of healing. I had no idea what they did. So I was like, would you do a healing session? And so they did. And it ended up being a past life regression. Well, that opened my crown to the
Whoa.
point that I was communicating. I mean, my grandma kept turning lights on and off and, was communicating all kinds of stuff, but I was getting messages from all kinds of souls. I was feeling other people's emotions. Like it was nuts. And so I drive 350 miles across the state to go do makeup at this friend's wedding. and her family was born again Christian, and she was marrying a Catholic. And so there's all this conflict, inner conflict that her parents were not voicing, but I could feel. And I mean, I was totally out of my mind. I mean, my poor friend was so worried about me. She called long distance from Hawaii to check on me during her honeymoon because she was so worried because I was so wacko during the wedding. And my mom ended up having to meet me halfway and like caravan back to town because I was so out of it.
Yeah.
And I mean, we're driving along the highway and I'm following my mom and I see all of these do not enter signs, do not, wrong way signs going along the freeway. And they weren't there. But I was like, why is mom going this way? The signs all say wrong way.
Yeah.
We shouldn't be driving to, yeah, I mean, there was all kinds of crazy stuff that was happening. And 2 days after she died, my mom's best friend's mom died, and they were twins, and they'd been best friends since fifth grade. 2 days after my grandma dies, their mom dies.
Oh my
So
God.
since we weren't doing the celebration of my life for my grandma for another 2 months, my mom and I decided to go to Canada for their mom's funeral in the Mormon church, where I had my second experience, where Spirit let me know in no uncertain terms that that was not the place for me, and I did not belong. My poor mom is going, oh my God, my daughter is becoming schizophrenic. I just lost my mom. I can't lose my daughter too. And her friends are going, oh my God, Katie, you've got to get her. And we came home and I had multiple regressions with these cousins and had to learn how to shut down the spirits when they were coming through, and I'd say something to my mom and she'd go, how do you know that? I'd say, Granny. And she goes, well, when did she tell you? And I'm like, it's not so much as that she told me, it's just I know it and I know it came from her.
Wow.
So yeah, so that was my spiritual awakening and basically waking up to being a medium and a channel when I was 22.
Wow.
And so for the last 23 years, I've been studying and learning and growing. And then I was attuned, I did my first Reiki attunement in February of 22. And then from then was when I kind of started working on building a business and helping others. And from the day, so here's the other piece of the story. Um, I had regression therapy and saw that during this lifetime, my father molested me from age 3 to age 6. And I had repressed those memories until my mid 20s.
Oh my gosh.
And from the day that I uncovered those memories, I started asking to be guided to help others. Because
Oh,
I said, if I had to go through something this painful, then I want to be a gift to others and help others who've been through something like this. And so I share my story very openly because I know how powerful it is to hear stories of other women who have been through something like that. And I have had so many women come to me and say, thank you for sharing. Because you shared that, I started going to therapy. Or I've never told anybody this, but because you shared your story, I want to share it with you. And
yeah.
so I know that by me being open and sharing about it, it gives other women who are suffering in silence permission to take whatever that next step is on their healing journey.
Yeah. Oh, I just got like goosebumps when you said that because that really is your mission. That's like your story and it's so empowering and powerful. So thank you for sharing all of that. And it's just like just thinking of all the hardships you've gone through, and I think all of us go through this, right? When we have someone passing, when my father passed, I think that started making me start thinking about what's more to just like on this earth, right? And where is he going to go? And you start asking these questions and wanting to look beyond. But then that made you open up your superpowers pretty much and be a medium. That's so amazing and that's so cool. I think mine didn't really awaken truly until I went through infertility. And then I was like, oh, okay, there's more to it, right? So I feel like it's always through some type of hardship that we find our powers. Most of us, not all of us, but most of us, huh?
Yeah.
But Yeah, that's so crazy. So how did you actually maintain? So now do you do certain things to help with your powers or, like your mediumship or getting messages from spirit? Like how do you really control or maintain that? Do you have to do rituals or do you have to like, you know, I don't know, surround your energy with certain things or mantras? I don't know how that would really.
So, I do a lot of different things. There's definitely ritual work. I do work with mantras. I have lots of crystals and I have the energy in my home set up to be a protective, safe energy space. Because when I go out and I'm like surrounded by people, it can get overwhelming. And the place where I live, I call it my fairy ring. I have 13 blue spruce trees that encircle the duplex that I live in. And I do a lot of healing work with them. And they told me that they've literally been waiting for me to move in here since they were pine cones. The deer told them that a powerful witch was going to move in and do a lot of healing work with them. And I was actually doing a ceremony one night. I was leading it, on my computer, and I felt my trees calling, and they're like, let us in. We want to be part of this. And so I opened to the trees, and they're like, but it's not just us. The trees all the way up the mountain want to be a part of this. And so I open, and let me tell you, that rush of emerald green healing energy was like, whoa.
That's amazing.
And yeah, I spent 25 days in the hospital last summer, and I could feel my trees calling to me. And they're like, just because you're not physically near us doesn't mean you can't call on us for healing. Like, we want to help you through this. So, yeah. And so they also protect the energy on the property. And so it's really interesting. I actually have a friend who's also a witch who stayed with me for a while when I broke my ankle, and she's like, "Oh my God, your trees absolutely love you. They won't shut up about you. They are telling me how wonderful you are all the time when I'm sitting outside."
Yeah, that's a
So, yeah, and then I do different rituals and I do different prayer and healing and things like that. And so my grandmother has communicated with me ever since she died. I've always known, and it used to for years, I would feel her crawl into bed beside me.
wow.
And my
Oh,
bed doesn't move when somebody gets in on the other side of it. Like, it physically doesn't move. But it would feel like the bed was moving, and I always knew that it was Granny.
oh.
And then my mom actually died very unexpectedly at the age of 69 in November of 2023. Well, my mom and I were extremely close. We were actually very codependent. I was her primary caregiver. I, was over there several times a week. We were on the phone several times a day, and she had been in the hospital, and I thought it was just another one of her hiccups because every 6, 8 months or so, she'd be in the hospital for something, and
Mm.
Dorey saved my life, and I thought it was another one of those. And then I woke up to the coroner ringing my doorbell to tell me that my mom had passed in the night. And so, of course, that was extremely brutal and painful and took it even deeper. But that same day, I actually had a somatic activation with Meg Zeke,
Yeah.
Meg, right?
Yeah.
So this program that I was in with her, we were scheduled to have somebody come in and do a somatic activation for us that day. And of course, I had texted her that morning when I went over to my brother's, and I was like, I don't know if I'm going to be home. I don't know if I'm going to be there. And she's like, well, of course, do whatever you need to do. And I decided, no, I think it would be good for me to come to do that. And so I came home, and during the meditation, we were focusing on different parts of our bodies. And when we got to our hands, my hands started to glow. And Granny came to me and she said, you've been pouring all of your love into your mom for so long that she had to move on so that you can pour that love into yourself and your healing work.
Oh, that's so beautiful.
It's so beautiful. And I mean, at the time, of course, I was still in that anger, like, how could you leave me? I wasn't ready for you to go, right? Not that we're ever ready, but I had another 15 or 20 years before I had to deal with my mom
Hmm.
and stuff. But I get messages from her all the time as well. Um,
Oh,
And actually, also in February of 2022, I went to a somatic writing with the ancestors session, and it was a free master class. And I thought, oh, maybe Granny will show up and maybe my other grandma or,
yeah.
something like that. Well, we started doing a channeled writing, and the first channeled writing we did, I was greeted by all of the grandmothers going back to the dawn of creation. And they said, you're
Amazing.
one of us, and you came through in this lifetime at this exact convergence of family lines to bring our message and healing to the world. I
Wow.
was like, what?
Yeah.
Me?
Yes.
And
You.
so, and so I started, doing channeled writing and channeling messages from them and other ancestors. And so sometimes I'll get blocked and have to like sit down and write or, really tune in. But most of the time I get messages from spirit just all the time. And they'll be like, you need to do this instead of that. And I'm like, but I want to, and they're like, no, you know that you need to follow the direction. I'm like, okay, I know.
Oh, do you feel like life is easier when you tap into higher source and them telling you, ways or routes to go instead of the ego mind that usually most of us listen to and live by?
So it's easier when I follow instructions, but sometimes those instructions are not what I would want to do.
Mm.
Um, Sometimes they tell me to tell people things, and I'm like, I can't tell them that. They're gonna get so mad at me. And they're like, you know that you need to follow directions. Oh my God.
So have you said something one time and then like got negativity back from it, or has it always been positive? I'm pretty sure it's always positive, right?
There's so I had my grandmother was like, you need to send this email to the family and you need to say this. And I was like, I can't say that. I was like, they don't even believe in this stuff. And she's like, I don't care, you need to do it. And I did actually get a pretty rude email from one person in response. But yeah.
Oh.
But for the most part, it usually is received well. And for example, just a couple of weeks ago, I got a message for somebody. I was like, I can't tell her that. She's gonna get so mad at me. And they're like, you have to do what we said. And I was like, okay, but I'm gonna ask permission. And so I sent her a message and I was like, Spirit has a message for you. And I don't think it's something that you're gonna like hearing. So I don't really want to share it with you. So I'm asking your permission to share this that Spirit wants me to share with you. And she goes, well, is this a message from you? And I said, no, it's not from me. It's from Spirit. It's from the ancestors.
Yeah.
And they're telling me that I need to tell you. And she was like, yeah, okay, tell me. And so I did. And so then she said, thank you for sharing that with me. Thank you, ancestors, for giving that message to Dorey to give to me. So it was well received. So, it depends. But I can think back to a time that I didn't follow the guidance. And it was after my grandma had died, but it was, before that I started like
Mhm.
really tapping in the last couple of years. And I was in college and I went to get in my car and I dropped my driver's license. And as I bent down to pick it up, I felt that I was being told not to get in the car. But I was like, well, I have to get to this appointment.
Yeah.
And so I got in the car, and a block from my house, a car pulled out of a parking lot into the side of my car and had my first whiplash injury.
Oh
Yeah,
my gosh.
that was extremely traumatic. And, I've had other injuries since, but I'm literally still in treatment for the back injuries that started
Oh
at
no.
that time. So yeah, so I definitely know that when I don't listen, there are consequences.
Wow.
And so I had been learning to listen to that voice even before, I really, really started connecting in the last couple of years.
Oh wow. See, it's just like even when you have guidance, you still like, maybe not. I don't know. You're still gonna do your own thing regardless. And then you
Yeah.
still have to see what happens. It's just so crazy. But that's so cool.
But like I'll be getting ready to leave for something and Spirit will be like, you need to take this with you. And I'm like, no, I don't. And they're like, so I'll take it with me. And then there'll be a reason that I needed to have it with me. And I'm like, I'm so glad I listened.
yeah. That's so
So
funny. I wonder what's the resistance that you have sometimes. Like, what if I don't listen, And then why? Why is it that you resist sometimes when you knowingly know that they're there to help, right?
yeah.
It's so
Well, and I
interesting.
think it's that ego mind being like, no, I don't. I know what I'm doing. I can do this on my own. And no, none of us are doing it on our own. We all have guidance from spirit all the time. And a lot of times we don't recognize it. But the more we recognize the synchronicities and the times when we're told to do something and we do it and it ends up having a positive result, the more we celebrate those and talk about those, the more those will show up. And
Oh,
the other thing, because I do a lot of ancestor work,
mm.
and they always tell me that I need to tell people this when I'm interviewed on podcasts. So when you think about somebody who is on the other side, it is because they are in the room with you, bringing you that memory, saying, say my name. I'm still here. I still love you. Don't forget about me.
Oh. Okay, I'm gonna say that right now to my dad. Just kidding.
Well,
Wow.
and even before you said that, I was like, your dad is telling you. So I was about to say, so when you think, think of a memory of your dad, it's because he's there bringing that memory to you, wanting
Oh,
you to think about him and remember that he's still right here with you, even if you can't see him.
oh. Yeah,
But you can feel him because you remember him when he shows up.
yeah, I feel them all the time. And do you
Yeah.
usually it's interesting though, right? Because all of us have powers. It's just that we just don't tap into it or we're just not known to tap into it. But I guess
Or we don't
no.
trust it when we do tap into it.
Mm, yeah, that's true. But it like your powers is being able to be a medium and whatnot, right? But not everybody can do that, or everybody can. That's what I'm still trying to
I
figure out.
I think everybody has the ability, but
Mm,
not everybody tunes into that ability.
mm,
And like I was talking to my aunt one time and I was like, well, Granny sends me messages all the time. She goes, well, that must be why I don't get messages from her because she's with you all the time. And I was like, no, she's with you all the time too. You just don't believe that it's her when she shows up. She's like, she was telling me about this memory she had. And I said, okay, so first of all, she brought you that memory the other day so that you would think about her. And that was her bringing it to you. And then she reminded you of it now so you would tell me because she's here with you with us now too.
wow.
And it was a memory that included my mom and me. And so, um, but yeah, I mean, they're with us all the time, and they're always there to guide. If you're like, what should I do? Which of these is the better option? You can always close your eyes and tune in and ask. And
Mm,
sometimes it takes some practice before you can recognize, what their yes or no is. But for me, if I ask a question, if the answer from spirit is yes, I feel my energy go up on the right. And if the answer is no, I feel the energy go down to the left.
wow. That's so fascinating. How
So,
did you
and
figure that out for yourself, though? That's so fascinating.
it just took practice and asking
Okay. That's
and
so
testing it. I mean, because you can test it just like you would test a pendulum, right? What
mm,
is your yes? What is your no? And then, okay, is my name Dorey Kern? And you get yes. Or am I 44 years old? Yes. Do I live in San Francisco? No, right?
yeah, true. That's so powerful. Thank you for that because
Yeah.
I really believe that we all need to work towards I totally believe that right now, the earth is shifting into more spirituality, more higher dimension, and more of us are seeking to really tap into our powers. And I feel like a lot of people are awakening more so. So this episode is going to be super powerful for people to hear and to start tapping into their powers. And, your story is going to help guide and lead them, which is pretty cool. So why is past life regression so important and part of awakening or your spirituality journey? You, be- why do you believe that?
So I think that past lives, we often carry, our bodies still carry memories of those past lives. And I have an example that's kind of extreme. A couple of years ago, I had decided that it was time to come out of the broom closet and be more authentic in who I am and what I believe. And so I was doing that both, on social media and also at work. For example, on Friday afternoons, or Friday mornings, we always had a meeting, and there was always a question that we had to answer. And one week the question was, what is unique about you? And I was terrified to do it because, and well, I'll get into why in a minute, but I did. And so my answer was, I have spirit guides that I talk to and receive messages from every single day. And I had this huge fear about saying that. And everybody was like, "Oh, how do you do that? Tell us more. We want to know."
Yeah.
So it was very positively received. Well, at the same time, I was finally coming out as queer and bisexual to myself and to my inner circle. And I got this rash on the back of my head, and it was from where the strap that holds my CPAP in place was rubbing. And I got a picture of it one night and I sent it to my mom, and she goes, "Oh my God, Dorey, you need to go to the ER right now."
Mm.
And I was like, "Oh, mom, you're overreacting." So I sent a picture to it to a friend who's a healthcare practitioner, thinking that she would back me up. And she goes, "Dorey, that looks like it might be a staph infection. And as close as that is to your brain, you really should go to the ER.
Yeah.
It's January, it's 9 o'clock at night, it's freezing outside. Like, really, I can't just wait till tomorrow." So
Hmm.
I bundled up and I packed because I know that when I go, unfortunately, I've been to the ER more than a couple of times. And so I always pack pillows because they'll never give you extra pillows. And I like to be comfortable, and you never know how long you're going to be there. So I pack like I'm moving it, and I pack a bag with pillows so that I can be comfortable. And so I go to the ER, and sure enough, it's a staph infection, and they gave me something for it. So then I kept feeling like I was being drug around on a leash. I was like, what is this about? So bizarre.
Yeah.
And I was talking to a friend of mine, and she was saying that she was afraid to show all of her magic in her work. And because she just had this fear that somebody would come in and try to control her and her magic. And I said, "Well, that's your witch wound." She goes, "Witch wound? I've never heard that term before." She goes, "So do I have trouble with the atlas in my neck because I was hung for being a witch?" And I got a flash of a past life where she and I were both witches and we were lesbian lovers, and we got caught for both of them, and we were hung for being witches, and we were left to rot in the tree.
Oh my God.
And the rash on my neck and the pus coming out of the sores was the maggots crawling out of my head.
Oh my gosh, that's so crazy.
Isn't that, I mean, and I was like, "Oh my God, this is why I was 40 in my 40s before I fully came out as queer, because I had this super dramatic past life experience that had me terrified to come forward about this." And so as I was coming out of the broom closet and coming out, this surfaced in my body to be healed and released so that I could move beyond it.
Wow, that's amazing. Wow. Thank you for sharing that. I really believe that past lives carry through into here, into, each of your lifetime. But how do you tap into past life, like your past life, and knowing what is still held on to now, right? Or unless you just wait it out and just see what comes about from it.
So there are different ways that you can tap into it. I mean, you can go into a meditation, you can have somebody lead you through a meditation, which is how I started.
Mhm.
My cousins did multiple past life regressions for me when I was younger. And then I didn't have it, I didn't do any or have anything else surface until a couple of years ago. And I've had a couple of Akashic record readings, so you can do that.
Mhm.
You can also take a course to get trained. I'm actually in the middle of taking a course right now on Akashic records. And you can also, I mean, tune in and ask. And now that that I'm so tuned into spirit, like I was going to visit a friend one time, and I was like, "Oh, we were priestesses together when we were in ancient Egypt in the
That's
Temple of Hathor." And yeah, so sometimes they'll just surface like that for me now that I have the practice that I have and I have the connection that I have. And so if it's something that, that you've never tapped into, you might want to work with somebody who can guide you or who can do Akashic records or something like that. Um, but I mean, yeah, we all have access to that information
That's
if
so
we,
cool. That's
yeah.
awesome. Thanks for sharing that story though, because wow, that was extreme, but it's so necessary and it's true because certain fears come from your past lives too, right? Like if you're
Hmm.
scared of, I believe I'm scared of height for some reason, I don't know what it is, but I'm like, it has to be from a past life. And it's just like the urges or certain things that you're scared of and you just don't have answers for, it's most likely from your past life. That's what I believe.
Would you like me to share with you what I got when you said that?
Yeah.
So you were pushed off of a cliff to your
Oh,
death. That's why you have the fear of heights.
oh my gosh. Okay. When I was a kid, though, I used to dream about always falling off cliffs. And then I would wake up like, oh my gosh. Like that was just a dream. Oh my God. That's so crazy. See, I knew it. I knew it. That's why I'm always scared of edges. And I just didn't know why. That
Mhm.
makes so much sense. Oh, thanks for
And
sharing.
now that you have that awareness, you can go in and create safety and tell your body that was a past life experience. I don't need to be afraid of that anymore.
Wow. That's amazing. And you help people do this work too. So
Mhm.
if anybody wanted to work on this, you could totally help them out. This is
Yes,
so amazing. Okay, I want to ask you also though, I know your course or what you love teaching is about sacred rage. I love that phrase so much, but what does sacred rage mean to you and how do you discover its power as a portal to healing and transformation? Because that's
sure.
something important, but I'm like, "Oh, what does that really mean?"
So as women, especially, we're often taught to bottle up our emotions and our anger because it's not nice to get angry, right? It's not okay to get angry and yell or something like that when we're upset. And so we bottle it up. But then it gets trapped in our body as excess weight or dis-ease or chronic pain or some sort of, anxiety, depression, whatever it is. And so it's all of our emotions are here to be felt and expressed. And so when we honor that by acknowledging that rage and saying, okay, I see you, you have a purpose, because anger is almost always that part of us that wants justice because we were wronged in some way. And so anger is here to protect us. It's here to help us. It's here to stand to show us where we need to stand up for ourselves and say, no, that's not okay for you to treat me that way. And for us to set boundaries.
Mm.
And so in March, I started doing some sacred rage rituals. And I had been working on losing weight and it wasn't going anywhere. And then I started doing the sacred rage rituals and the weight started coming off.
Wow.
And so when we tap into that rage, and then we go in and we get that rage out of our body. And so I lead you through meditation to honor the rage and then to physically somatically shake it and dance it and get it out of the body. And we send it down into Mother Earth because she's really good at turning shit into fertilizer to grow beautiful things. And then once we get that rage out of our body, then we can tune into that divine healing light that's within each of us. And so I do circles where we collectively then pool that light together and to send it to each other and send it to the planet and everybody on it. Because, like you said, the planet is, more and more people are awakening and we are rising to the next vibrational level. And so those of us who came here with the mission to assist in that, right, have the ability and I think the responsibility to lead others through it and help others awaken and do that work, whether it's the sacred rage work or the learning about your past lives or tuning into your ancestors or whatever path it is that you were guided to, because we're all called to different things. But I keep getting from spirit, they keep saying, hold the high watch. And when I said that to my aunt, she goes, "What does that mean?" And I said, "Well, the image that they give me is angels holding lanterns in the dark. And so we came here to be that light in the darkness for those who are awakening now."
Wow. That's so beautiful. And that's a lot of work though. Being a light worker, like, holding the torch and giving light to others is a lot
It is
of
a lot
work.
of work. It is a lot of work. And that's why it's so important to do our self-care and our own rituals because we do have to cleanse other people's energy off of us after we work with them, right?
Mm.
Because we don't want to take on other people's burdens or pain, right? And that's something that a lot of light workers do. And so it's really important to do those rituals and to do the healing on yourself to cleanse that every time we work with somebody so that we're not taking on other people's energy, or so that we're cleansing it off once we have taken it on.
Oh, that's smart. I don't think I do that. I don't think I cleanse. And I'm an empath for sure, so I feel other people's energies. And it's like sometimes I'm with a certain person, I'm like, oh my gosh, this person just drains me so bad.
Hmm.
So,
Yep.
yeah, I definitely need to cleanse. Okay, we should do that more often. Also, how do you know if you're a light worker? You just know? I feel like I'm a light worker too, because I feel like I want to give light to this world. It's just
Mhm.
feeling or a calling or a knowing, I guess.
Yeah, I think it's a knowing. When you feel called, like when I had the repressed memories come back, and I was like, okay, well, if I went through this, then I want to help other people. Right? So I knew from that moment that I was going to be helping other people through it. And I mean, even as a kid, so
Yeah.
I remember as a kid when we would have assemblies at school and they'd have motivational speakers come in and everybody else was like, "Oh my God, this is so stupid." I was like, I want to do that when I grow up. Right? So it's like looking back, we can see different things where that was already, I was already feeling called to do that, right? And
Yeah.
I'm sure you probably have examples where you have felt called to step in and help, right? When somebody was going through something.
Yes. But what popped up for me is when you thought of the motivational speaker and looking back, mine was I just sat in, I think in my teens, I was very t in tune. I think I like was able to tap into Akashic records before and I just never knew it. And then, obviously my powers kind of suppressed itself through living and doing whatever.
Hmm.
But I had a thought,
Being
I was
conditioned.
like, yeah, it's crazy, like suppressed, but I had a thought like one day I'm gonna speak somehow, and I felt like I had to speak to the on the radio or something, but then it led me into making this podcast, which is so
Yeah.
crazy. I'm looking back and I'm like, this is one of my purposes. It's so crazy how it led me into that one thought
Yep.
carried on, and I didn't even know what that meant or what, but it's so cool. And you have that too.
Yeah.
So we
Yeah.
all have that. It's just like if we are noticing or being aware of it and how you use it and put it into your reality, I guess, which
Yeah.
is pretty cool.
And I would guess that everyone who's drawn to listen to this podcast is also a light worker,
Mm,
right?
yeah.
And they may be at a different stage, right? So some of them may already be doing light work and some of them may not even realize or know what a light worker is, but they were called to listen to this episode and they're like, "Oh, so yes, if you're listening, you're probably a light worker."
Yeah, for sure, which is so cool. That's why I love having so many different guests that come on because I feel like no matter what, you're always going to be led to whatever you're meant to be or see or hear or whatever it may be. So,
Right.
dude, this episode is so cool. I love it. I love talking about spirituality. I'm all about that woo-woo stuff. But I want to talk about how d divine feminine play in your work and your life. How do you personally connect with that energy on a daily basis?
So I tune into the goddess
Mhm.
and I work with different goddesses, but also I do a lot of work with Mother Earth and tuning into just Mama Gaia. And, like I said, I tune into my trees. And so that's that divine feminine energy that holds all of us on the earth, right? And So that's, I mean, for me, that's just how I do it. And I, will pray to the goddess and tune in and ask for guidance through oracle cards or through channeled writing or just listening, and the the Galactic Council of Grandmothers who I work with are also the divine feminine. So
Mm,
um and I think we talk about the rising of the divine feminine, but what we don't talk about is the rising of the divine masculine.
mm,
And we don't want to swing from patriarchy to matriarchy. We want to balance the two and have divine feminine in harmony with divine masculine and have the two supporting us equally as opposed to being out of balance and having, right now where we're so far into toxic masculinity that
yeah.
it's,
Yes.
that it's squelching the feminine, but it's also squelching the divine masculine is not honored right now either. So,
So, what are the difference between the two, if you can explain to people, like what's the divine masculine and what's the divine feminine that, are on each? And then how would the balance of both look like, per se, if it was balanced?
so the divine masculine provides the protection and the structure, and then the divine feminine provides the flow within that.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
So the divine masculine holds the container so that the feminine can flow and create.
Oh, that makes so much sense. You made it so clear and easy. Wow, I feel like there's just so many different ways to look at it, I guess, you know?
Yeah, yeah, and there's a million different ways that you could explain it, but that's the way that came through for me to explain it is that
Ooh,
yeah.
I love that. So if it's balanced, then we would have the container with the, yeah, feminine and divine feminine to flow. Yeah. And so I feel like the divine feminine is being suppressed in a way because the masculine
Hmm.
is just too much. Like it's
Well, and
crazy.
because masculine is not holding it in a protective, loving way right now, masculine is holding it with, trying to control and suppress the creative power of women, right? And control it as opposed to letting it flow and create as we're called by divinity. Because we
Mm,
all have that divine call to create. And it's not just men versus women because we all have masculine and feminine within us.
yeah.
So masculine is like the physical doing, whereas feminine is kind of the flowing and receiving.
Yes. And that's what I've noticed. And when I figured out that we have both energies, it made so much sense because I'm like, yeah, I'm in a like female body, but then I was like, I feel so masculine all the time because I'm running on masculine energy. Like, doing and always on the go. And it's just so exhausting. And it's hard for me to really receive because that's not what was taught for us, like growing up, right? It's like doing, giving, giving, giving on the go, keep going, going, going. It's never like, slow down, be creative, love yourself, and like let it flow to you, And I'm like, oh, this is kind of struggling. Like, it's hard. I struggle with that
Yeah.
still, you know?
Well, and it's that masculine hustle that leads to burnout. And that's why so many women end up with autoimmune diseases and burnout and are like, oh my God, I can't function, especially when we hit perimenopause. Perimenopause isn't meant to be where the body is losing something or something like something negative. It's meant to be our awakening and where we're stepping into that power of being the elders and being the women who guide the younger women through the process of becoming mothers and having children and raising children and things like that and through the creative process. But the patriarchy has messed with all of that.
Yes, I feel
And I
it.
think that it's starting to return though. There are a lot of women who are feeling called and men too who are feeling called back to the divine roots that we have and reconnecting to the sacred within and around us.
Yeah. I've always had a question though, like how did we get so far from like having such this type of right like this issue? I believe that we grew up in like no, but ancient times, right? Like it's like tribes, like we used to love Mother Earth, God, we used to respect it. How did it come to like I don't know. I just feel like it's just so extreme now to the other side where it's like we're out of tune. We're all like just not even in tune with ourselves, but we're so in tune with
Mhm.
like all the distractions. Like, how did it
Yep.
do that? Which is so sad, you know?
So
So,
there have been men throughout history who have wanted to control specifically women and our sexuality, but really control everyone.
mm,
And one of the biggest tools that they've used to do that is religion.
mm,
And so this is something that this is opening a huge can of worms. So
I
might have
love
to
it.
come back to discuss it more on another episode. But
Yeah.
um, when they canonized the Bible, they took out most of what Jesus actually taught.
Yeah. I could see that.
And
I believe that.
they put in stuff to, that was aligned with the men's laws of that time and that suited the church to control people instead of empowering us, because what Jesus really taught was we all have within him the same thing within us, the same thing that he did,
Yeah.
and it is in there a little bit where he says, the least of you among you can do everything that I do and more,
Mhm.
right? But that wouldn't be convenient for the church to be able to control people and get people to give them their money and do what they're told. If they
Mm.
said, oh, well, you all came with the power within you and you just need to tune in and connect to God yourself, you don't need to go through an intermediary. Well, that wouldn't be convenient for them to control us. So they're like, no, that's not what we're putting in the Bible. We're putting in that you need to, and all of these rules that you need to follow and,
That
and
makes
laws and commandments, because that's how they used religion as a weapon to control people.
That makes so much sense. Wow, that is so eye-opening. Thank you for sharing that. I really think that that's so true because right now we see in our society, religion is a huge thing that a lot of people struggle with, you know? So that is, wow, I love that insight. That makes so much
I
sense.
have a, let's see if I have it right. Sorry, next to me. I have a book recommendation along those lines. No, I thought it was clear, but it's not. So the Book of Secret Wisdom is based on the world's most ancient sacred text, which is not even an actual physical book. It's like a spiritual codex, I guess. And it's housed in Shambhala, which is in the heart of the Himalayas, but it's hidden. And so people, like every 60 years, two humans are granted access. And Jesus was one of the humans who was granted access, but there are other humans. And all religion, science, and philosophy are based on this book of secret wisdom. And so there's this Russian woman who has had access to it, and they're also sworn to secrecy, so they're only able to share little bits and pieces, and none of them have access to the whole thing, right? They've all gotten access to bits and pieces of it, and then they're only allowed to share a fraction of what are exposed to.
Wow.
But when you read this, you can see how Genesis in the Bible is the dumbed down, muddied up version that men in that era were capable of receiving. But this is like the highest, most metaphysical version of what has been translated as Genesis.
Wow. That's amazing. I gotta go read that. You gotta
It's
get,
it's it's powerful. It's yeah.
wow.
I have on my YouTube channel where I read the first part of it aloud. Um, so it's on YouTube. It's under Divine Uprising on
Oh
YouTube.
gosh, I'm
If
gonna go
anybody
check
wants to
that
go and
out.
listen to it.
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh. I'm gonna go listen to that like right after this. I'm like, this is so awesome. Thank you for sharing. But before we wrap up, what's your message for anyone listening who is struggling right now? Maybe with their body, their pain, or feeling disconnected from their power?
Just remember that you're not alone. You are supported. You always have angels and guides and ancestors supporting you. And there are lots of people on the earth who are here to love you and support you as well. And, reach out to Kathy, reach out to me, find other light workers to connect with and build relationships with, because you're never alone.
Yeah, I feel like community is so important. That's so powerful. I really believe that. We all have to come back to community and not be so separate like we are, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
And last but not least, where can the listeners find more about you or even work with you if they wanted to?
So my website is divineuprising.love.
Oh,
And then
I didn't know it's that
on
love. I love that.
yeah. So yeah, so you can find me there. You can also find me on Facebook. It's Dorey, Dorey, Kern, Kern. And then on Instagram, it's Dorey M. Kern.
Perfect. And I'll put all the links in the show notes below as well. But thank you so much today, Dory, for like sharing all your stories, your insights, your amazingness, and most of all, just being open and honest with your whole journey about this. So this is so cool. I'm so excited
Thank
to
you,
have the
Kathy.
listeners, yeah, here and really bask in the amazingness of you. Oh, thank you so much.
Thank you.